Hi everyone, it is Binky. Welcome back. So, as promised, I am slowly going through my collection. If you saw the organizing my 130 palettes, yeah, I don't want to repeat that so much. You'll see that I have a huge collection of eyeshadow palettes. So what I've been doing, and my goal is to go through every single one of these palettes, every single one of them, and either keep them or declutter them or do a little bit of Frankenstein with them. And what I'll do is I'll explain that a little bit later, but we're going to get a little experimental just because it's a lot of palettes. So I want to start working through them. So the first one, because we're in summer, that I wanted to use was one that's more pastels because 'tis the season. It is 100 degrees. We want pastels. Yes, it is no joke. It is 100 degrees here on the East Coast. So you're going to hear the air conditioning kicking on and off, and my makeup will probably melt away, even with the air conditioning. Yeah. So it is time for pastel season. So I decided, why not go with Zoeva? And I have had this collection, I would, for about a year, maybe less than a year. No, I think I got it at Christmas, but it doesn't matter. So I got it last year, and I'm finally digging into these to give them a try because I love pastels. Now I know pastels are kind of a hard sell, especially for people with, medium to deeper skin tones. Even a lot of people with lighter skin tones also don't like it. They're hard to deal with because a lot of them can be chalky or there's not enough pigment, and so pastels are a delicate topic, and I think most makeup companies tend to stay away from them if possible, just because they are a nightmare to formulate, I can imagine. So that didn't deter me from getting these. Now, in case you don't know, for people in the US, you're probably going to want to skip this. You won't even know what Zoeva is. But Zoeva is a brand that is big in Europe. It is from Germany, and the products are made in Germany, but they ship, I think, to almost everywhere in the world. To get this in the US, you are going to have to pay a shipping fee. I think it's $9. That could have changed from the last time I bought, but it's under $10, so it's not horrible. So save up the money and buy what you want and do it in one fell swoop. They do only have one sale a year, and it is at the holidays, so you get 20% off. And they have some really great brushes, so you may want to wait for that, and that's kind of what I do. I just wait and then go for it. But yes, so big in Europe. You'll see these on a lot. Yeah, you'll see a lot of these on the European YouTubers channels because they love Zoeva. So yes, so I have several of these palettes, Zoeva palettes, and decided, hey, it's time. So this, I'm kind of a nerd like this. I always keep the packaging. I don't know why, but I do. Same thing with this. And look, voila, it's the same exact damn thing. Yes. So there's the eyeshadow palette, and then there is the cheek palette, which is, here we go, a highlighter, and then two beautiful blushes, which are great. These are really great to go with them because it's a very happy summer, spring kind of look, and these go really well with pastels. So they're really, really nice. And then this is the palette that I was discussing, which is the Sweet Glamour palette. And here you go. You have the pastels right in front of you. Now, I am wearing this right now. I decided to give it a try. I've been wearing this off and on for about a week and a half. What I'm trying to do is use these palettes for 2 weeks. With this, I decided 1.5 weeks was good enough because you can see a lot of the shades are very, very, very similar. So you have the two peachy kind of colors here. Yes, they are different, but with this third one, they're very much alike. They're so much alike. And then you have these three purples here. And then it's like, well, here's a white, a yellow, and a blue, and a green. So it's just kind of, it's kind of repetitive. That's what I'll say about this palette. So I'll also be putting swatches to the side so you can see what they look like. What I originally was going to do with this, going through my 130 palettes, was I was going to do a separate look so you can see what that looks like, a more dramatic look to kind of push myself. But spoiler alert, this palette was extremely disappointing. So to get a look out of it, a dramatic look, Heck, I wanted a dramatic look during the week and I wasn't able to get that. I mean, this was it. So looking at this, can you tell that because I'm wearing green, I was going for a pop of green in the corner of my eye? No, you cannot, because it does not stay. So that was my issue with this palette, is that, yeah, I live in New York. So the problem with this palette is that it's not a problem here. Here's the thing. With Zoeva, they tend to have a more powdery finish with their eyeshadows. So if you're used to Anastasia Beverly Hills or Lorac, they tend to have a very powdery finish to them. The difference is that they tend to have a little bit more pigmentation than this palette, or this Zoeva palette. So they are very powdery with very little pigment. So when I would put it onto my eyes, the pigment, first off, you had to build it over and over and over and over and over, and I could do this ad nauseum because that's how long it took to be able to get any kind of look onto my eyes. And as far as the pops of colors, what would happen is that I would keep adding it, but then over the day, because they're so powdery and they wouldn't adhere even with a primer, it would just wash away. So I'd have like the blue or the green finally get a little bit on my eye, and within 2 hours it would just be the white. Now you'll see there's no real shimmers in this. There's some that are shimmery-ish or pearl finish, but the thing is they actually read more matte, because they, even though they're supposed to be like pearl or kind of glimmery, they still read matte. This whole thing just reads matte. So if you want a matte palette, this could be a choice for you, but I'm not going to say it would be a good choice. And the reason is the pigment and the payoff just does not work. Just to get this look, I had to work harder than I normally do in the morning to get out, and I don't have time. So during the week, I'm digging into these things, and it was just kind of a disaster. What I will say is that the purples tended to fare better. So these two here, they're extremely light, but this one specifically was really good. So I can show you what that looks like. Well, not really good. For the palette, it was really good. So there you go. This one tended to work a little bit better. So I'm going to put this wipey here so I can clean my fingers in between. And the other one was the white. If you are looking for a white eyeshadow, and I always am, a good matte eyeshadow, I always feel like they just wear away horribly. And with this is the best white. Look at this. I know it's kind of hard to see on my skin because, you know, I'm pale ass, but you know, look at that. Look at that white. That is amazing. Like usually with whites, they're really patchy and kind of hard to work with. No, so putting it underneath my brow bone has been a delight because these are great and it makes for a great base to put the colors on top of. But the problem is because it's so powdery, you take the powdery pigment on top of that and it just blends away to nothing. It's just nothing. So that was fun. And then with these, like I said, these are very similar to each other. And look how powdery they are. And that's what I'm talking about. So you swatch these, and they are very different. Looking in the palette, they look somewhat a little bit more, well, somewhat similar, but they are different once you have it on the arm. But on the eye, they kind of read a little bit the same. I would put this above, so I'd use this in the crease, which is this color here, and then use this above to add a pop of color, and it worked all right, and I kind of did that here, but they do kind of blend together, and this one was just so close to my skin tone, which was okay, I guess, because then you could prep the eye, and it's not as drastic as the white, but it just wasn't fantastic. As far as the blue and green, you're getting excited over it. Look how powdery, again, powdery. Let's put these here. So here's the blue, and you think, oh, that's not so bad, but look at the green. It's barely there. It looks white with a little hint of mint green. It's just really powdery, but this is what I want to show with the blue. So here it is. It looks absolutely vibrant and beautiful, but then you start using it and you put it into your crease and it's already washed away. In fact, I'm going to get a brush to show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so this is a very stiff brush. This is really great. Ooh, I have to clean that out. But this is a really great brush. It's BH Cosmetics, and it works really well for a stiffer kind of, if you really want to get some color in there. So I use this a lot. But let's look with the blue. So you dig in there, powdery fun. It's on the brush, you're excited, and then you start using it, and that's what happens. So the purple does fare better if you put that there. The purple, like I said, is kind of the winner. The purples and the white are the winner of this palette. But a lot of them were just really difficult. Like the blue, I really wanted to use this. Not that I'm a big blue person, but I'll just keep showing that. Nothing. So it's just kind of a waste. And the green is the same type of deal. So let's just put this here. You put it to the side, you work it in, gone. So then what I ended up doing, which I did here, was I would just dip my finger in it and put it on top. But again, because it's so powdery, it had nothing to adhere to, and it just would wipe away within a couple hours. So I was left with the white base, because the white, this thing's not going anywhere. This thing's really great along with the purples. They lasted all day. And that actually takes me to the formula here. The formula was actually pretty good outside of pigmentation and wearing away with some of the brighter colors, in that it lasted all day. So if you have oily eyes or oily skin in general, like I do, these lasted all day. And I kid you not, the oil did not break through ever in any of these colors. Well, a little bit with the white. Actually, it's a lie. A little bit with the white. It would change a little bit. In about 8 hours in, it would get, it wouldn't be as vibrant white. It would kind of go more to a cream color just because the oil started breaking through. But the rest of them were there, and it was fantastic. So I could honestly, like one day I was wearing these and I left really early in the morning, and I was gone late because I was meeting up with friends for drinks and dinner and drinks. And I'll actually show a photo because I'm going to show some of the looks that I did with this. So I'll actually show it now because I have a few looks that I was doing during the week, and I'll put those to the side. But this one, I was wearing these two as a crease color. It was very easy go, these three, and out the door I went. And I was at a rooftop bar with some friends. I would cut them out because they're like, what are you putting me up here for? And enjoying some adult beverages. And it was hot. I mean, we're in a heat wave here, and it was hot, but this was the first night of it, and it was breezy and beautiful. I didn't get out of there until late, we'll just be honest here. And so I was out for 14 hours that day. And my roommate was like, where the hell are you? But that's a whole different story. But 14 hours, and it still looked like this. It was still adhering. It was still powdery. It hadn't moved at all. It looked as fresh as it did when I left. So what I will say is that these guys were all stars. I'm telling you, this palette in that respect, the formula in that perspective, the formula is amazing. Yeah, there you go. So it stayed all day. Now here's the thing that I will say. If you have dry eyes and dry skin in general, this may be a no for you unless you moisturize really well. So what I would say is moisturize, put a primer on, and go. And the thing is, you may not actually need a primer with these. I always do it because I'm an oily mess, but you may be able to get away with it. But I would suggest, even in summer, moisturizing your eyes a little bit if you have dry eyes, because these may exacerbate the dryness and may show that a little bit. So nobody really wants that look, It's just, hey, I have dry eyes. It's in all the creases if you have that. And I know if you have drier skin, that could be an issue. So just be warned. But if you have oily skin and combination skin, this is amazing in that respect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and show some swatches just so you can see what they look like in all their glory.
Sleep now under my skin, make sure and try to conjure the wind and tease my mind.
All right, so as you can see, not too impressive, eh? I know. It was a little bit of a disappointment, and I know I have some other pastels, and there's been issues with that formula as well with these other palettes, but I feel like this just takes it to a whole nother level. This was one of the most disappointing palettes that I've ever had to deal with, and I normally love Zoeva, but ooh, doggies, this was bad. I actually did like this yellow, but again, because I didn't really talk about the yellow, it's really beautiful, but looking at it, it is different than the white, but it's supposed to be a shimmer. So you can see it's supposed to be a shimmer, and it's more matte. And so when I put it on the eye, I expected this beautiful kind of shimmery or pearl yellow, and it's not. And if you try to use it in the crease, that ain't going to be doing anything. So it brings somebody to go, what is the point? I guess that's kind of what it is looking at this green, looking at this yellow, looking at these colors. What is the point? Because they're barely showing up on your lid as a color. So I guess you could look at it from the perspective of if you're somebody who's afraid of using colored eyeshadow because it makes you nervous, you don't want to experiment too much, this may be good for you, because let me tell you, you're going to have nothing to worry about, and you can experiment with colors without them being too bright, and they're very easy to fix. So maybe if you're a beginner in general, or a beginner using color in eyeshadow, this might be an easy palette for you. I would make some changes with this. I do feel that the browns were really repetitive, and even these purples. I think what I would have done differently is maybe added a gray of some sort. So a more cool tone, though, well, yeah, I would add a cool tone. Maybe take one of these out, because then you could use them in the crease color and do a pop with these colors. So maybe add a little bit of a gray. I also would have probably, I don't know, taken one of these two out. Probably the yellow, actually. The yellow just stinks. So maybe I would have made the yellow brighter, just because it would have been a little bit more exciting. And then I would have taken one of these guys and added something else. I feel like it's kind of lacking as far as bright. I don't know. I feel like it needs a shimmer of some sort. I think that's what it's lacking in a lot of ways, is that there's just, you could use these whites, but there's no shimmer, so you can put in the corner of your eye the green or brighter colors, and then put a shimmer onto the eye. So something like that I think would have been more interesting. But they just kind of dropped they dropped their balls. Yeah. So they basically, I feel like it's just so repetitive in so many ways, because this is so similar, these are similar, these are similar, and then you have these two which stink. So it's just frustrating. It's just so frustrating. Every time I use this palette, I was just like, grrr, you know, I just wanted to get out of the house, and I was trying to save looks, and in the end I just threw something in my crease, usually one of these, and I left and just went, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. So what I'm going to do is move on before I give my final review, but I think you know where it's going, because this is kind of a dismal review. So then, to go along with this, I ended up using the Sweet Glamour palette, which is really nice, very spring, quite beautiful. I guess my only thing with it is the pinks are kind of repetitive, and so you have two pinks, and I understand that this is for, you can go on deeper skin tones than this, but I just feel like what I think would have been better would have been to keep this color, because you can really build these up quite nicely, and then take this one and make it like a peachy color, because looking at this palette, you have some warm tones like right here. This one's white, but you have some warm tones here and then cool tones here. So you could have the cool tone blush and then have more of a peachy color, just to pull certain looks together, because I felt when I was doing this, and today I decided not to use the blush because I was going with more of a warm tone, though I brought in some cool tones in the highlight. And the white kind of cools it off, but I felt like it would have clashed with the pink. So it would have been really nice to have had a peach color to kind of work with this palette. It would have been more cohesive with this palette. I ended up bringing the peach, Papa Don't Peach palette from Too Faced, and it's never going to let you down this time of year, especially if you have fair skin like myself. So I think they dropped the ball on this as well. This should have been changed out. this works on me, and I have fair skin. It's not overwhelming. In fact, I'll show that now. So this is the lightest, and I'll probably do, I'll do some swatches to the side as well. You'll see. So here it is. Yeah. So now you can kind of see, looking at this, why I would be okay getting rid of it, because you just don't need it. It's not very pigmented. But then you go in with this, and we'll put this here. And again, it's pigmented. It's just not overly pigmented, much like the eyeshadow palette. It's just kind of, and I'm digging in there. I'm really digging in there. So there it is on the brush. It does go on. It will build up, but it could be seen as a disappointment to a lot of people. I mean, there's just not much payoff, and I was digging in there. So here's what I will say about this palette. I actually like it because for somebody with my fair skin, I have to be really careful with blush or I look like Ronald McDonald, and that is not a look I am going for. It's just because I'm so fair, blushes just show up on my face horribly, and then people are like, have you been drinking or something like that? You know, because it's like, well, you're rosy today, somebody got sun. And I'm like, no, it was this. But not with this palette, because again, it's there, but it's more of a natural kind of look. Now if you have darker skin tone than myself, you know, I'd say like medium light or medium and up. You're medium light and down, you're gonna be okay. But medium and deeper skin tones, this palette's just gonna piss you off. There's just no reason to pick it up, because it's just not gonna show up. I mean, look at it. It's a very natural look, so it's great for somebody, you know, of my skin tone, but for everyone else, it's just like, what is the point of this? The other thing is that this is the highlighter, and it is very white. So again, I have very fair skin, but look at that. It is pure white. So I just felt it was a little bit much, even for me, and I'm wearing it now. But what I would do is I would put it on, and then I would spread it out like this, just to give it a little bit more of a natural highlight. It was just too much, where it was just like, whoa. Now, if you're into that look, it may not be a problem, but for me, I just didn't feel that it looked natural, because I really didn't care for this highlighter, because I felt it stayed on top of the skin, so it didn't melt into the skin. It was just laying on top of it, and very powdery, much like the eyeshadows and the blushes. It was just powdery and just laid on top of my skin and just laid on the pores, and it wasn't the prettiest look. So if you have, you know, maybe some skin issues, or you know, have you know, pores, larger pores, or you may have a little bit of lines on your face, this may not be what you want, because it's going to exacerbate it. It's going to show it, and you're going to go, that's not what I wanted. So makeup's to enhance, not make people go yowza. So this would make people go yowza. The only way to make it really work is to smooth it in, which I did, and then it was fine. It was fine. It's not my favorite, but it's, you know, it's okay. As far as the wear time, again, this suffers from the same thing that the palette did, and that is that they're extremely powdery. So did they last all day? No way, they did not. So unfortunately, there were some issues with them, because they would wear away. The highlighter fared better. It has a little bit more cling power onto the face, so the highlighter worked the best, but the blushes started to wear away, and there really wasn't much to work with in the first place. So yeah, you do the math. So as you can see, not the most glowing review in the world. I like to be kind. I don't like to trash things just to be a jerk or whatever. That's just not who I am. I tend to be a little bit on the positive side, and I want to see the positive things. And the positive thing for me is that these aren't going to last long, because they're so powdery. I could get through these very easily, and then they would be done and out of my life. So that is the positive thing, is that this isn't a palette that's going to stick around forever. If I had my way, I would get rid of this. I'm going to be honest. I would declutter this from my collection, but the reality is nobody's going to want this palette. And that's the reality. This isn't going to work for any of my friends. Out of my friends, I'm probably the fairest. And if it's not working for me, it sure as hell ain't going to be working for them. You know, especially a lot of my friends tend to have medium and deeper skin tones. So they would be looking at me like I was crazy. They're like, why are you giving me this ashy palette? That's what they'd be saying. And you know, we don't want that, Binky. So I'm not going to insult my friends. That's not what you do. No. So I'll buy them a drink instead. We'll go back to that bar because it'll still be in my crease and looking good for the ones that actually show up. But that's not many of them. So, you know, what I will say is that I will use the blushes, and I'm already looking at panning this for next year. I have a project pan, so I could definitely see putting this into the project pan and using it along with this highlighter, because this highlighter can be used like eyeshadow as well. So I may do this and just try to get rid of it because nobody else is really going to be able to use it. Would I recommend this palette? No, I would not, though the packaging's beautiful. I just want to point out how beautiful the packaging is. Isn't it beautiful? And then you're like, yeah, and then you start using it and you're like, no. But I will definitely put this in my project pan for next year, so you will be seeing this again, even if you don't want to. So, you know, like you said, the packaging is really beautiful, but that doesn't really help if the product's a disappointment. What I do like about this, besides the packaging, is whoever names these shadows, I just freaking love. It's like Spirits Held Desire, Daydream, Childhood Adaption. Childhood Adaption. You know what that is? This shadow is childhood adaption because you have this beautiful view of where life is going to go as a child, and then you get into it, you get excited, and then you're disappointed. So I guess it truly is childhood adaption. So yeah, that's a very great name. But the names are just absolutely great. I know, sarcasm off. But I'm really disappointed. In case you couldn't tell, I am so disappointed with this palette. I look at it, I wanted to love it, and instead I'm just left empty in my soul. But what I'm going to do is, like I said, I'm not going to declutter it, and because nobody's going to take it, and also I'm just going to use it. It's just, I'm not going to throw it out. I don't want to throw it out because there are usable colors. So what I'll end up doing is using these the only ones that I'm not going to use are these two. This white is so freaking great that this white's going to be the first one to go. It is just absolutely amazing. So I'm going to definitely use that and these two to prep my eye. These two are useless. They make me angry. And the rest of it I could definitely make do with. I can make them work, especially the purples. Actually, like I said, so the purples work really well, and these work okay to an extent, and this white's just amazing. So what I may do with these two is take other eyeshadows that don't work and then try to make a Frankenstein eyeshadow that'll work, because I have a few glimmer shadows that just are like toppers. So I may try to mix them together and create something that I can make work on my eye. It could be a huge disaster, it could be great, but it'll be fun to watch and live. So I can't wait. But that's going to be later on down the line when I start finding more disappointments in my collection. So yes. So that is my review on the Zoeva Sweet Glamour palettes. Big disappointment. I know, I am so disappointed. I wanted to love these. I just can't. If you were to ask me, is it worth buying? Even at 50% off, I would say no. For this collection, I would pay $12. I would pay $12 for both of these palettes, and I think then maybe it would be worth it, because it disappointed me because Zoeva actually is a really solid company normally, and this just did not work. And I understand that pastels are a pain in the butt. I understand they're really hard to formulate, but there's other palettes that have done better. Like last year's Lorac Brunch, the Brunch palette, that one worked better. There were some duds in it, but this is just chock full of them, and it's just too frustrating, and it is not worth the price. And you have so many blushes like this, and you have a highlighter this color, you know you do, so you don't need this, especially considering these didn't perform that well. So you're just wasting money. And yeah, so that's it. I know I hate being negative, but there it is. So everyone, that is the end of the review. So if you want to stick around, I'm going to be talking about the next palette I'm choosing and how I'm going to go about this experiment. And to you who are done and that's all you wanted to see, have a lovely day. Bye. To the ones who are staying, so what I'm going to do is, because I want to get through all of my palettes, I want to use them and see how I feel about them because it's time. Instead of just adding on, I want to understand my collection a little bit more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose one and decide, well, what I'm going to do is show different looks. These reviews are going to be extremely long and in-depth. That way you know what you're getting, and I'm also going to use them for myself so I can always revisit them later on and see what I liked, what shadows worked, what didn't. These are going to be really in-depth. So it's selfishly for me and for others. So I'm going to break them into sections. You can go into the description box and see, you know, what section you want to jump to. I think it'll just be easier. And also what I plan on doing, because I want to challenge myself look-wise as far as working with makeup, and sometimes go with bolder looks, because I tend to be a very neutral natural with pops of color here and there. I tend to go more crazy with the lip tone, not today, but usually. So I want to experiment more, even if it's something that's more editorial that I would never really wear out. Sometimes yes, sometimes no, but I want to lean more towards that, even though my skill set is kind of sometimes I think it would just push me in a fun direction. So that's kind of also the point of this project. It's kind of all encompassing. So you will see that. I'll put up a couple videos on each palette, probably 2 or 3, just so I can really get into it and enjoy my collection, because that's part of why I'm doing this. I want to enjoy things and people I have in my life instead of just collecting and not really being involved with it or not really enjoying it. So I want to be mindful of things. So what I'm going to do is, well, I'm also working on 2 other palettes right now. I have one that I just finished, so there'll be a review coming up. But I'm also working on the Festival palette, which you will see here soon, from BH Cosmetics. And I've also been wearing the new Flamingo palette, hey, from Violet Voss. So there'll be a review coming up of that as well really soon. Within that time, though, I have some palettes that are perfect for summer. Well, looky here. So there are 5 here, and I'm going to go ahead and choose it randomly. There's the Clover palette, which I think in a lot of ways the Clover palette could be used year-round, but there's the Clover palette. There is this one that was given to me by Colored Rain. Well, Colored Rain didn't give it to me, my friend did. And so she gave it to me, and she did a declutter and gave me stuff. She didn't even use it. She got it on a great sale. So there's this one as well. I haven't even touched it. She hasn't touched it. There is the My Little Pony palette, which is perfect for this time of year, from ColourPop. Unfortunately, you can't get it anymore, I don't think. So people may be going, what is the point of this? But I want to use my palette. You can always skip the review, and I'll still love you. The next one is the Sweet Peach palette. Come on, you knew it had to make an appearance. I have used it. I haven't used it at all this year. I haven't used it for about a year. And then there is the Winky Luxe palette. Is this the Marzipan one? Nah, I don't know. But I haven't even used it. So this one would only be used for about 3 or 4 days, and then I would move on with my life. So, and I would probably use it in conjunction with something else so I could get crease colors, because these are shimmers, and go about it that way. It wouldn't just be, hey, it's just this palette, because that would be boring as hell. So these are the 5. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let the fates choose for me. So we have 1 out of 5. I want to prove that I'm not, you know, cheating or anything. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So just in this stack. I'm not going to cheat you. I'm putting it right down here. I'm not going to pick something and go, hey, everybody. So what is it? I'm going to guess it's 3 using my power. Oh, it's 4. Hey, how you doing? So it is the Colored Rain Lovelies palette. That is what I'll be using next. Now, I don't really know anything about it. It's really lovely packaging. Oh, this is nice. But I don't know how I'm going to use some of these colors. Oh, wow. Especially the blues, because I really don't like blues that much. I just feel like every time I wear it, I feel like I'm like some bad stereotype. You know, the stereotype waitress kind of figure, or it's like, hey honey, what do you want to order at a truck stop? So yeah, that's why I'm kind of like, But you know what? Don't judge. It may be the most amazing color I've ever seen in my entire freaking life. So this I will probably only wear 3 or 4 days, maybe a full week, which is nice because it's a smaller palette so I can experiment, have a good time. I do want to say that I'll be using these palettes with other ones during that time. Otherwise, I'm going to get really bored using these same 6 shades, and I want to review the newer stuff that I have as well. So yeah, so that is my review, and this is my new palette that I'm going to be using. Thank you to my friend who decluttered it after I decluttered my place, and now I have all my palettes back. I still love you. So that is it. Until next time, have a fabulous day. Bye.